wanted to kind of have like this Gothic revival house that felt like equal parts beautiful and equal parts creepy, to kind of be a character. I wanted the house to be a character because our main character, she really, I guess, was kind of burst into the Hollywood scene based on this thriller movie she was in that was filmed in this house that was rumored to be haunted.
This week I got to talk with a repeat guest of the podcast, Audra McElyea, about her newest thriller, Hush Dear Sister, which is a very twisty Hollywood thriller set in a Gothic mansion with a serial killer on the loose. So if that doesn't already grab your attention, here's the whole synopsis. After a tragic accident she can't quite remember, 40-something-year-old beloved Hollywood actress Annette Taylor finds herself bound to a wheelchair with several injuries. Living in Crawford Manor, the Gothic Hollywood mansion from the film that made her famous, has become too much for her to handle alone, so she must rely on her estranged child star sister Sophia to help take care of her. Shortly after a serial killer targeting actresses emerges, the sisters agree to be filmed in a house together for renowned producer and director Frank Baxter's new documentary about their life. Only Annette seems to be getting worse, and the rumored hauntings inside Crawford Manor prove to be more than just Hollywood legend. When Annette's ex-fiancé, Charlie, and her actress best friend, Monroe, grow suspicious of Sophia's motives, they plan to remove her from Annette's house, but more trouble ensues when they're faced with accusations of their own. Everyone finds themselves at odds with one another in a race against time and a serial killer, but trying to figure out what happened the night of Annette's accident and how it's connected to the red carpet killer could give them all the answers they're looking for. You know I love Hollywood, you know I love a thriller, and you know I love Audra McElyea and her crazy twists. So you can imagine how quickly I devoured this one, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about it from Audra. So that being said, let's get into it. I'm super excited to talk about your third thriller. This is 3 years in a row, actually. You're a three-peat guest now.
Yeah.
Which is super fun. But we're going to talk a little bit about Hush Dear Sister, which is, as everyone just kind of heard, a very fun Hollywood thriller with a big, creepy Gothic Hollywood mansion at the center of it all. So very vibey, very atmospheric. I feel like I read it in like 2 days. I can't remember. It was a while ago, but I feel like I just burned through it. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Was there anything different that you noticed with writing this one compared to your other ones?
I mean, this is the only they're all psychological thrillers, but they all have kind of different subgenres, I would say. Yeah. And this is the first that has a paranormal subgenre. So that was really fun for me to get into and write and scare myself.
I know. I've wondered about that. Like, do you ever scare yourself so much that it's like what you're waking up in the middle of the night thinking about?
Yeah. So like when I was doing final edits and it had been to an editor and it came back to me, and then it went to a line editor and came back to me, and I'd had a few months where I hadn't really read it. And then I was going through and just kind of proofreading. My husband came in to our bedroom one night when I was proofreading, and I was like, ah! I was like through everything, and I was just like, where did you come from? He's like, why are you so jittery? I was like, this book is scary. He's like, you wrote it.
I'm scared myself.
It's not real. You made it all up. Yeah. But yeah, I would get myself.
Yeah, I believe it. My husband's gone this week, so it's just me. I don't know why I said it that awkwardly, but I like normally don't get like things don't like always stick with me. Like I'm not typically someone who wakes up in the middle of the night scared. But 2 nights ago, my dog would not stop just like barking towards the hallway, like at 3 a.m, and I was alone. And all of a sudden I won't say what movie it was, but there was a movie we saw like last month, and there is this terrifying reveal that someone had gotten into her house when she wasn't paying attention. And like she realizes it, and then there's this like she like turns the corner and it's just like this huge guy in the house with her. And so I saw that like 6 weeks ago, but my dog's like barking toward the hallway, and all of a sudden that image is just like
Yeah.
in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, like, and it's just like just dark enough that you're just really freaking yourself out, and you can even tell you're like not going to be scared when you wake up in the morning, but in the moment you're like, there's
Yeah.
someone in my hallway.
Oh, it's terrible.
I
It's
know.
terrible.
I don't know what he was barking at to this day, so I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, I don't
I
like
know.
that.
He just kept barking, and I was like, bro, you are terrifying me right now.
Yeah, and the cats, I swear, cats are worse because they won't,
Oh,
bark,
yeah.
but they'll make these like, they'll be like this,
Yeah.
and they'll like look in one spot for like half an hour, and you're like, what is it? I don't see anything.
Oh my gosh. And do yours, because we've never owned cats. I'm allergic, but I was just hearing someone else on a podcast talk about how they get zoomies in the middle of the night. Do yours
Yeah,
do that too?
yeah, yeah, he
Oh my
did
gosh. That would be
all the time.
crazy just hearing a cat running
Yeah.
around at 3 in the morning.
I love
You're like,
cats. They're so
hopefully
funny.
everyone's fine. Yeah,
They're
I
nice.
know. They do crack me up in videos. They just make my eyes itchy. So just
Same.
dogs over here.
I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was never allergic to cats until I had my second baby. And they say if you
Oh
have
my
like a
God.
traumatic event, it can change your
Uh-huh.
allergies. And so his birth was kind of
Whoa.
traumatic for me. And then
Yeah.
like months later, I was like sick and sick and sick and sick. And I was like the most allergic to cats when I went to get tested.
Oh my
Even though I
God.
had been tested several times before and never had cats come up. So
That
now
is
I can't have any
weird.
cats. So last
Oh.
year when my cat passed away,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get another one. And I'm
Mm,
sad. I don't have any cats.
oh.
But I have a
Well,
dog.
yeah, at least there's that. At least there's that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll distract your mind for you here. Um, what was your initial inspiration for Hush Dear
Hmm.
Sister?
Well, I won't name the movie because it's almost a modern retelling of this movie, so it would ruin the plot twist for you. But it's the combination of three movies. Actually, I'm not going to tell you two of them because it's kind of the plot twist really has to do with these two old noir type movies. Um, but I can kind of tell you what they're kind of about. But they're both about. Well, no, I can't say that. Well, one of them set
It's
in
so
Hollywood.
hard.
That's really all I can say.
Yeah.
I'm always inspired by old movies. I was raised on like
Yes.
TCM and Hitchcock and all that kind of stuff. So actually, these two movies weren't Hitchcock, so I'm not spoiling anything by saying that. But I usually get like two or three movies and kind of marry them together, and like if they had a baby, it would be this book, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what I do for most of my books, except for that one that I dreamt the plot of. But I mean, that's
So
kind of
cool.
my go-to system. Marry
Yeah.
some books that have nothing to do with each other. So it was like these two old movies meets The Truman Show were my
Mm.
I'm not going to tell you the two old movies, which you
Yeah.
probably know, but
Yeah.
listeners, I don't want them to know. But it's
Right.
kind of a mix of those three movies, so it
Hmm.
was definitely unique and interesting. Because you would
Yeah.
never
There's
put The Truman Show with these two old thriller type movies.
right.
So
Yeah. That we were talking about it a little bit before, but it is like the synopsis like needs to be longer so because there are just so many threads going on. So I can see
right.
how it's a combination of different things coming together for sure.
Right. And this is
Um,
the first book that I've ever written as well, where I actually created a cast for every character before I wrote them. So I had
oh,
actors in place and like studied their mannerisms and really
oh,
like went in hard on those actors. So that was
that's
fun.
really cool. I knew you had really specific ones in mind. I didn't know that it was like from the beginning you kind of knew
Yeah.
who they were. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, the other adjacent to casting, it does take place in Hollywood and
Hmm.
kind of covers child stardom and some of the stuff
Hmm.
that happens there. So, did you do any research into like the lives of child stars, or did you kind of already just like have it there as an interest?
Honestly, I've been so obsessed with like everything Hollywood and, lots of famous people and their lives and all that, like my entire life, that I already just know a ton of it, like a ton of useless information.
Same.
And so I really just was able to dump all that in there.
That's
So
cool.
tons of documentaries, tons of reality TV, tons of old movies, new movies, TV shows, like, all
Yeah.
of it. All
Yeah.
of that e-news got
Yes. All the years
dumped
of
in there.
TMZ, just all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it takes place in this really gothic, maybe haunted mansion. So where kind of like the setting is almost a character as well. So was
Right.
that something kind of in place from the beginning for you? Like, did you know like that was going to be a big part of the vibe?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to kind of have like this gothic revival house that felt like equal parts beautiful and equal parts creepy, to kind of
Yeah.
be a character. I wanted the house to be a character
Hmm.
because our main character, she really, I guess, was kind of burst into the Hollywood scene based on this thriller movie she was in that was filmed in this house that was rumored to be haunted. And then she
Yeah.
filmed the movie there. She fell in love with the house. She bought the house after the film wrapped, and then she's been there for 15 years since. So it's definitely a big part of her life. And, it's kind of like a child or a
Hmm.
sibling or something to her that's very close. And so it's definitely a character, and it has, it's named Crawford Manor, so it's not just house, it has his
Yeah.
name, and it definitely has a lot of history,
Hmm.
and it's just a fun character. I love,
Yeah.
anything that feels like Nancy Drew and Scooby Doo with the secret passageways, and it maybe the attic's haunted, maybe the basement's really creepy, like all of that. I mean, all of the things
Yes.
that you love about a maybe haunted house are in there. But
Yeah.
it's not an old decrepit house. It's also like at the same time this beautiful manor. So
Yeah. I wanted
all
to
right.
live there, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I think it would be nice. I like it a
Was that,
lot.
I can't remember if this was you or someone else I was talking to. Was there a real mansion that you kind of like worked off of? I might be completely making
Yeah,
this
I
up.
did. I had a few when I started writing it, and then when I did the cover, I like
Mm,
really integrated it in there. The
yeah.
house on the cover, even with the way that the cover is, it kind of looks all pink. But if you were to take that filter off, it has like stained glass in some of the windows, which I describe in the book, and like the archways and all the types of windows and everything are really based off of that house in the cover. So that's one good thing about getting to do the covers yourself, is that you can really make it fit the story specifically.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I
However
really
you
do.
want to.
I like doing that.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else while we're on the topic of that actually? Has there been anything else you've noticed that you really love about self-publishing?
I mean, I like to call it my Audra's version because
Yes.
all the
Yes.
Taylor's version stuff. But honestly, it's just like owning the rights, because you
Yeah.
can sell your books however you want, wherever you want, for whatever price you want, to whoever you want,
Hmm.
wherever, however. I mean, you call all the shots, covers. People are really, a lot of people don't like people's faces on covers, and
Mm,
so I don't really either. So I
yeah.
definitely don't want that on my covers. And I get
Yeah.
to go with more of an aesthetic that kind of fits the story. That's kind of my thing. I just
Hmm.
really like having like all creative control, because I'm a control freak anyway.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I just like everything about it, to be honest. I love selling on TikTok Shop because, I can kind of have like that book signing experience with
Right.
people where I'm not just like a name on a book. Like they know me, they know my face, and then I'm personalizing their books to them and getting to know people. So it's not just like, oh, you made this much money at such and such store, and it's just a number. Like I actually know the
Right.
people's names and faces and get to know them. So, and none of that would be possible if I weren't doing it myself.
Right.
So it's all, I don't know, it just feels more involved. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
more involved with
Yeah. That's a cool
people
perspective.
and the whole process.
Yeah.
So,
It is cool because it's like I've talked about it a few times. my dog is like stomping on my feet right now. The when I first went to start the podcast like years ago, I didn't even know how many people would respond. And so I reached out to like 6 authors, and like 5 of them even responded, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I can do this." But it was like, even though I knew I like wanted to talk about books, most likely with authors, that's how it started off. Um, I wasn't thinking of how cool it was going to be connected to so many people. So like exactly
Right.
what you were saying, it's cool with social media how like connected you can be to readers, to authors, like going both directions. And
Right.
then it's cool, like you're an example of like this is your 3rd time on, and I have a couple of others like that. So it is fun when it can be more of a community event.
Yeah. Because being an author, you really are by yourself a lot. And if you
Right.
have a publisher, like they're always planning and doing a lot of things for you. So you don't
Hmm.
feel like you really have a grasp of what's going on, like on a personal level with
Right.
readers as much. I wouldn't imagine, or at least
Yeah.
I didn't when I had a book with a publisher. I just didn't
Right.
know what was happening. I didn't know the ins and outs of everything as much. So,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
definitely like to like know everything.
Right. Yeah, it does sound just a little more autonomous. And yeah, like you also just like you're saying, you have a bigger grasp of like what's actually happening, kind of.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, so there's also kind of a complicated sister relationship dynamic going on.
Hmm.
So how did you approach writing that relationship?
Well, first of all, well, this kind of goes back to the other question we were talking about earlier of like all the e-news child star type stuff. I
Mhm.
was, I wanted one to be, that typical child star who got involved in bad things and really went one way. And then I wanted one to be like a late bloomer who really, grasped fame in a healthy way. And so they're on opposite ends of success there. So they're naturally going to have, jealousy and
Mhm.
issues with each other. So I wanted them to really just from the get go, from childhood, just have friction.
Mhm.
And also, at the same time, since I have sister in the title, I definitely wanted to dedicate the book to my sister, who we are
Yes.
both like the most non confrontational people, and we never fight other than over our clothes when we were like in high school and college.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wanted it to be like, this is not about me and my sister.
Yes.
I think, let me read the dedication if I can
Yeah.
find it really quick. It's funny. It says, "For my sister Laura, thank God we aren't like these broads."
I knew it was something. I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah, that's
So I'm
amazing.
like, definitely wanted to make that clear. So this is not based on experience, but I will say I do have a lot of, girlfriends growing up where, there's them and their sisters were like, ah. So I
Yeah.
had a lot to go off of. Not
Yes.
based on me, but based on other people that I've experienced and,
Yeah.
just imagining what it would be like to have one sister be so successful later
Hmm.
and one be kind of the breadwinner even as a child and then just get hit rock bottom so fast and so hard, only to
Yes.
see the other one rise up from that point.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
very juicy.
It is. Yeah, they are the tables turn for them essentially, and then they are more technically at odds with each other because of it. I feel like it's also probably one of those things where like since you're typically living with your family um and around them all the time, I'm assuming like if it's like there's a little bit of tension in the relationship, then you're just around each other all the time. And so I'm sure it's less like elevated by that too. Possibly. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't have a sister
right.
either.
Well, and they had been estranged for 15 years and then all of a sudden they're living in this house together and
Yeah.
they're filming this documentary and they're trying to look a certain way and present that they have this certain kind of relationship on camera. And so
Hmm.
it just makes for all kinds of just juicy things.
Yeah, totally. Well, and with the whole documentary aspect, you're kind of bringing up how they are kind like, as we all know, once cameras are actually in front of you, like you're gonna behave a little bit different than when there aren't cameras in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, was that something you kind of wanted to play with as like a way to look at, like, especially in Hollywood, how common it is to be like presenting one way when you're actually another?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, they both have moments where they're strategically bringing up certain things on camera
Hmm.
that certainly could have been discussed off camera,
Yeah,
just for the shock factor.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
they both do it to each other.
they do.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of competing going
it
on.
goes both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it totally does. The another part that's going on, or another thread that's going on, is the red carpet killer. And I remember you posting about like needing to come up with a name.
Yeah.
Um, I love that name, but were there any that you were like really close to choosing as
Oh my
well?
gosh, yeah. I think there were like 4 or 5 that I was like, oh, I really like all these. I cannot remember what they are.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't remember what they are now, but there
Yeah.
was like, I think I narrowed it down to like 4 or 5 and had people vote, and everybody voted for
Yeah.
the red carpet killer.
Yeah, that's what that's what I was remembering. I thought it was something with a vote. Like
There
how
was
I know
something like
like 2 years
Hollywood,
ago?
Hollywood this, something. I don't remember what. I don't think it started with an H, but there were a lot of them that were like, they were too like rhymey and sounded a
Yeah.
little too hokey, and so I nixed all those. So we went with red carpet. I wish I could remember that. I need to find that post
I
where
know, it
people
would
like
be
voted.
interesting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have like this. I think it's called Audra McElyea's Villain Clan on Facebook, and
Oh,
so we do
nice.
a lot of that kind of voting type stuff there. And I'll try to get a character name, and I'll have
Yeah.
a poll or this or that, or like for that. We do a lot of fun things over there.
Yeah. I know, I need to add that link then too. Um, something came to mind just when you were saying all of that.
I wish I
How
could
did it
remember all those
just
names.
left me? Oh, I know. I know.
Some
It'd be
of them
cool
are pretty
to,
good.
yeah. It is interesting when you go to like name a killer, because I feel like
Right,
it's
because
one of the things.
you don't want it to sound cute.
Yeah. Yeah, like you want it to be like catchy almost, but you're like,
Yeah.
this is still a killer technically.
Right. And then when
Um,
like those things happen in real life, they always end up with not a killer, but like, just, like Brangelina or whatever, like things that
mm,
people come up with that kind of go viral and become a hashtag. They're never really on the nose
yeah,
with what you think it would be a lot of times. And
right.
so having it just be like where it rhymed or both started with an H or both started with this or that just seemed a
Hmm.
little too hokey, so we just went with something that was just
Yeah.
said what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean
Simple.
it makes sense. It gets the point across for sure.
Right.
Did
Yeah.
you, with this one, did you know where it was headed with the ending when you were writing it, or did you kind of discover it as you wrote?
Yeah, I'm definitely not one of those people that like start a setting and characters and they're like the characters are going to tell me this story and I don't know
Right.
where it's going. Like I can't do that. I very much want to have like a very unique plot twist.
Mm,
And so
mm-hmm.
I start out with just in my notes on my phone, I'll have lists of different plot twists. And if they're like a real wow factor, like will blow your mind and seem like unique and a little offbeat, then I will outline the whole book. And then after I do that, I'll write the book. So I always know where it's going and I build the characters and the setting around the plot twist. So
Yes.
that's how I plan everything out. So I
Yeah.
always know the plot twist going into it, and it's like I just can't wait to get there.
That's, yeah, that is a cool, like I hadn't even thought of that. Like it is like then you're excited to just like write what you need to get it up to that point. And
Right.
I do remember you saying that from the beginning, that like you and Jamie Lynn Hendricks does the same thing. Like just like thinks of a twist and then like
Mm-hmm.
figures out how to fill it in. But you do have
Right.
some wild twists. Like it's been
I
so.
saw a podcast where Frida McFadden does it exactly like I do, and I was
Oh,
like,
that would make sense.
that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. That was the first time I'd heard anybody doing it exactly how I do it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it was just you two that I knew of, but that makes sense because a lot of hers are definitely like built around like some shocking thing at the end.
Right. Because, like, I
It's
mean,
always
I'm sure people do it where it makes sense and it all comes together. But for
right.
me, if I'm starting and I'm writing like the setting and this characters and I don't really know where it's going, then I know I'm going to be married to everything that I wrote already.
Mm.
And if I get to the
Hmm.
plot twist and those things aren't trickled in throughout, it's going
Yeah.
to be so much work for me to go back and rework scenes to where, well, if that happens down here, then this couldn't have happened here, and I end up wasting a lot of time. So
Right.
for me, I have to be very strategic from the get-go because I want to have little drops of clues throughout, and
Hmm.
not have anybody do something that conflicts with what is coming up with the plot twist too. So
Right.
it just makes
That's
sense.
I know, because that's what even people who say they do just kind of pants it. The common thing people seem to say though is like, but I have to do revision after revision after revision to make it
Right.
make
I
sense.
cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot
Yeah.
do it.
I
No.
know. I
By the time
know.
I get done, I'm pretty married to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Which is what you were even saying. You're like, it makes sense.
Yeah, it just does.
Yeah. Yeah, it just really does. Um, are you working on something else? I'm guessing that you are.
Yes. I actually have the first chapter written of my next book. So I
Oh,
finally caught up with myself.
yeah.
And so I have like the cover done, I have the first chapter done, the whole thing's outlined. Like, oh, I know where it's going, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just getting it down up to that plot twist is like the tedious part where I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I just
Yeah.
want to
Like,
I want to be done and like polishing and editing and moving things around a
right.
little bit. And the first 10 chapters, I'll say, are the hardest to get down. And then
Yeah.
once I get that done, I get into a flow. But right now,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'll write a few paragraphs, and I'm like, Real Housewives of New York.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I gotta have some inspiration for like a girl fight or something. I don't know.
Yes. Oh yeah. I know it's easy to be like, it's for research.
Yeah, it's my lunch break.
Yeah, totally. It's just a fun lunch break.
But once I get through that hump, then I'm
Mhm.
like a crazy
Yeah.
person. Like I won't stop until I get
Yeah.
it down.
Hmm.
But those first like 10 or so chapters, I'm just like, oh, this is so hard.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I know. That's what mine felt like. Now that I'm at like I finally crossed over 50,000 words. And so now I'm having that same experience where I'm like, "Oh, I'm not having to establish as much stuff." And I like
Right.
know where it's headed and it like feels a little more real. But like the beginning, you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I just have to make up something out of nothing."
Yes. Yes. And then the more you kind of get your surroundings at least planned and your
Yeah.
characters, like they're all kind of described to where you kind of know what's going on and things can start happening
Yeah.
more. I hate wasting time trying to think of like a
No.
name or,
Hmm.
what kind of tree I want to have been at this part. I mean, like it has to
Right.
all make sense with the time
Yeah.
of year and what the location is. And I get so
Right.
off track with like these little details that are wasting my time in my head, but
I
they really
know.
aren't.
Yeah, it's easy to get it. And sometimes you're like, well, maybe I do want to figure out the detail right now. And other times you're like, no, I just need to keep writing.
Yeah. Just
I can
write
go figure it
tree.
out. Yes.
Who cares? I'll
We'll
go back
figure
and
it out
fix it later.
eventually. Yeah. Yeah. Well, where can people follow you? Okay, my voice is just going out. Where can people follow
Everywhere.
you to stay up to date?
I pretty much get my name on everything. So I'm either Audra
Mhm.
McElyea or Audra McElyea author on
Mhm.
basically all forms of social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can
Well,
go
I
to
will.
audramcelyea.com and I have links to everything there. And you can
Yeah.
order signed copies there. I have merch. I have info about all the books. But, all my books are psychological thrillers. But like I said, they're all have a little bit of a different subgenre.
Mhm.
So you can kind of look into which one speaks to you the most at the moment.
Yeah.
grab it.
And every time I've had like 2 or 3 friends read your books, every time they're reading them, I'm always getting like a text like when they're at like 90% and they're like, what did I just read? Like everything, what? So it's always fun, like knowing someone's reading
That's
it, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the oh my god text from them,
right.
basically.
That's like my goal in life. So
Yeah.
when
Well, you've
people text
achieved
me and
it
they're
with
like, I was up all night, I'm like, yes.
yes, I know, and it's
Like,
the best
good.
feeling
That's
as
what
a
I
reader
want.
too.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to apologize to you. That's what I wanted to
No,
happen.
that was the goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I will add those links to the show notes for everyone, and I'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure, with another one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got If You See Me has a sequel coming out next year. So after the one I write right now, which is kind of like a locked room mystery
Ooh.
thriller, I'm really excited about it. The plot twist is insane. It's like If You See Me, insane.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the sequel for If You See Me, and then I have another book planned after that. I've already done the cover. I've already like plotted it out, and that one's gonna be a little bit of like a sci-fi thriller. So
Oh my gosh. I love
yeah.
sci-fi
So
thrillers.
like One Little Word is kind of like it's present day, but it
Mhm.
feels kind of old school noir Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And then If You See Me is just crazy. Hush Your Sister has some paranormal in it. My
Yeah.
next one is like more of a locked room, and then
Yeah.
If You See Me sequel, and then I'll have like a sci-fi. So I'm really trying to dip my toe into
That's
all
so
the
cool.
subgenres of psychological thriller that I can.
That is so cool. It's also very Audra's version of you.
I know, because I really like. It's funny because when I watch movies, a lot of times I will watch either thrillers, documentary, crime, whatever, true crime, or I'll be watching sci-fi. I love
Yeah,
sci-fi stuff.
I do
So
too. I do too. Well, I'm
why not? I
excited.
had a crazy idea for a sci-fi thriller, so it's down the road, but I'm already really excited about it because it's just
I
different.
am too.
Yeah.
Man. Well, we're gonna have you on lots of podcasts in the future.
I know. I might have 2 books come out next year again.
That would be so
We'll
cool.
see.